If you are familiar with Bloons Tower Defense 6, you have probably heard of a pretty popular challenge, which also grants you an in-game achievement, called 2TC, 2 Towers Chimps. The goal of the challenge is to beat any map in the Chimps mode using only 2 towers. There is however a variation to this challenge called 2TCC, 2 Towers Co-op Chimps, which is basically the same, but you are allowed to start the game with 4 players in co-op, which in total gives you 1800 cash to start the map with. Another variation to this is 2TCC-CE, 2 Towers Co-op Chimps Challenge Editor, where instead of playing in real co-op game, you just give yourself 1800 starting cash and play the game in Challenge Editor. With this additional starting cash you can use a variety of starting towers that you would not afford at start in a regular Chimps game, such as Ace, Mortar, Spike Factory and a bunch of different heroes. Well, now that you more or less understand what this is about, I've decided to try out a very interesting combination, Captain Churchill and Supermines. Even with 4 players co-op cash you can't start the game with Churchill, so I had to start with the Spike Factory, and as a map of my choice I picked Resort, because in current game version it is clearly the best map for Churchill. The issue with this combination is actually with affording the Supermines. I had 3 attempts at this before I finally succeeded, and figured out that if I don't buy any Churchill levels and if I keep my Spike Factory as a 410, I should be able to buy Supermines on round 95, a moment before I would start leaking Bloons. For the early and middle game I had no bigger problems whatsoever. Spiked mines are great support for Churchill, as it would catch any random Bloons that would somehow sneak by. Once I reached 90s I had to start being more careful about what to do. On round 90 I used Moab Barrage to only damage 2 of the DDTs, that let me stall the round a bit longer to reduce the ability cooldown. It was probably very unnecessary, but I tried to optimize everything as much as I could. Churchill was only on level 13, and that's pretty bad for the tanky Moabs that were about to arrive. But I was already at 115,000 cash, so I only had to survive a tiny bit longer. Round 91 already was heavily reliant on ability usage. First of all, I had to use the level 3 ability for the fortified cerams. Later on, I used the level 10 ability just as it went off cooldown and paired it with another level 3. And then, towards the end of the round, I once again had to use level 3 for cleanup, or else I would just not beat the round. I entered round 92 with both abilities on cooldown and still with level 13 Churchill. I used level 3 and level 10 abilities more or less in the same time for maximal damage output in short time window, with the plan of cleaning everything except for ZOMGs. In general, the trick for Churchill is to keep him on last targeting so that he can use most of his spears in a nice straight line. Once I had level 3 back, I used it again, and I also had to switch to first targeting because it would be more optimal once there were no more Moabs on the initial straight line. In the end, I was left with a huge number of ceramics and Moabs, which were entering the last straight line, so I once again switched to last targeting and used armor piercing shells for cleanup. This way I entered round 93 with Moab Barrage available, and also Churchill reached level 14. Still very weak, but it's a useful upgrade. The Moab Barrage of course had to be used for DDTs, and because it targets up to 10 Moab class Bloons, I also popped some of the fortified BFBs. I waited for a moment where the F Moabs lined up with 3 remaining FBFBs and then used a level 3 ability to damage them all at once. This however still left me with a ton of Bloons on screen, so I had to rely on the ability coming back quickly. It got super close as all of my spiked mines got used up at one point, but I managed to not leak anything, while also having level 10 ability available and level 3 ability around halfway there to being back. On round 94 I used Moab Barrage pretty early on, but waited with using armor piercing shells for a better moment. When I finally used it, it started popping the BFBs really quickly, so I had to switch to first targeting for a bit to not pop everything at once, or else I would get overwhelmed. When a bunch of cerams was on the last straight line, I once again swapped to the last targeting to help with destroying them. Once I felt a bit more safe, I jumped back to first targeting and used level 3 ability, and then level 10 as soon as it was available. This downgraded all of the ZOMGs and I was left with a huge amount of BFBs. This does not look good, but it is manageable still. I decided not to rush with using abilities and instead just try to slowly downgrade the BFBs one by one. I was pretty successful at this, and for the last straight line, I was only left with Moabs and Serams, which could be much easier dealt with using the level 3 ability. Churchill on last targeting did wonders, and the remains of the round got destroyed pretty comfortably. This takes me to round 95 with just 18,150 cash spent, basically just Churchill, and 410 spiked mines. The plan for this round was very simple. Use the Moab barrage on first 10 DDTs, and then use level 3 armor piercing shells to try to destroy as many remaining DDTs as possible while spamming the upgrade button for Supermines, as there is really no time to spare. You can see how a bunch of DDTs only get popped because the first Supermine was placed early enough. If I spent a little more cash on anything, I would have not survived that long. And buying Churchill levels would push me far away from buying Supermines, so it would not make sense at all. Anyway, with Supermines afforded, the rest of the game was just formality. I didn't really have to do anything more, but I still bought the crossbuff for no reason. At round 100 my Churchill was only on level 15, so you can truly see how much cash you have to pump into him to make him more useful in the late 90s. Anyway, this was pretty fun to figure out, and it's honestly pretty crazy that it's actually possible. I guess Churchill is just built differently. For more cool BTD6 content, remember to subscribe, have a nice day, goodbye!